We're honored to have Seb from World Hosting here, CEO, hosting.com, here to share with us some fabulous insights. Thank you, Seb.
Hi guys. Can you hear me? Okay, nice to see you. I think I know all of you. I might not know some of you there. Yeah, I'm Seb. I asked Helmut what he wanted me to speak about. I said, "Are you sure you want a hosting guy to speak at a domain conference?" And Helmut said, "Yeah, people want to know about hosting and they want to know stats." So I'll see if I can give you some stats. I'll tell you a little bit about hosting.com, and then I'm going to talk a bit about what we're doing in terms of product and how we're transitioning hosting.com from a business that sells infrastructure to a business that sells product. So if I start at the beginning, I started World Host Group, which is now hosting.com, 2.5 years ago, along with some others. And the principle of World Host Group was that we could run a global hosting business in one way with a horizontal platform underneath. So the way that we run servers, infrastructure, domains, billing, support would be the same underneath, and we'd have lots of brands on top where we wouldn't get dis-synergies or dis-economies of scale because we could run lots of them together. And we called it World Host Group because, first of all, the business I ran before with this man here, Adam, had been based in a town about an hour west of here called Slough. And Slough is, if you've never been, Slough is like Office from David Brent in The Office. It's about the most miserable, unromantic place you can be in. And we spent a lot of our lives in an industrial warehouse in Slough. And so I decided I was never ever going to do that again. So calling it World Host Group meant that I couldn't possibly just be based in Slough. And second of all, I went to investors and I said, wouldn't it be cool after COVID if I could travel around the world going and buying hosting companies? And they were like, yeah, that sounds great. And I maybe got more than I bargained for, and certainly my wife got more than she bargained for. So anyway, now we're a couple of years later, almost 3 years later, we're about 25 brands, some of which we grew ourselves, Verpex, Stablepoint, Fixed, and lots of which we bought. I've got a slide that shows this. You can figure this out. Yeah. So some of these we built ourselves, and lots of these we bought. So Melbourne IT, Web Central in Australia, that was, I think, IANA number 7. It had been through a few different acquisitions and a few court cases before we came and tried to rescue it. .easy in Canada, hosting Raja in India, Colombia hosting in Colombia. So we put a lot of these different brands together on one platform, and underneath we deeply integrate. So we take all those brands and underneath we run one platform. So one infrastructure platform, one support platform. It's very key to our ethos, and the reason we do that is we take that headache now rather than taking that headache in 5 years' time, because we know someone at some stage has to deal with these virtualization platforms and deal with the tech debt. So we do that up front and ahead. What that means for domains is we're kind of a homogeneous business, and the way that we run our business and the things that we acquire, the businesses that we acquire, are largely the same. We're not trying to buy businesses that are doing vastly dissimilar things that we do. So we don't tend to run too many unmanaged servers or too many special custom setups. We run the same thing. And so domain names for us are something that somebody has alongside hosting. So in terms of our stats, we're about 3 million websites hosted. That's an imperfect stat. That's our biggest DNS cluster that runs. So there's plenty of sites we run that aren't on those DNS clusters. There's also many of those sites which don't actually run websites. So approximately 3 million websites hosted, but we're only about 1.1 million domains under management, of which 450K of those are .au because of our presence in Australia. And we've got 650K clients, thereabouts. And so you can kind of look at the maths there, and most of our clients are direct customers. So they're not wholesalers. We don't really have wholesalers. Maybe we've got 1 or 2, but customers are direct with us, and they are running their own business sites with us. Just to dive into those stats a bit more, there's nothing really very surprising in terms of the breakdown of what we sell. We're probably like most other traditional hosting businesses. If you take out the .au part of our business, we're like 64% .com, 4.5% net, 4.4% org. If you look at different places where we have, so in India and Colombia, we're obviously skewed towards those TLDs, but overall the numbers are pretty consistent, and they're pretty consistent in terms of the businesses we buy as well. If we take a very global brand we've got, like Verpex is a very global brand, hasn't done acquisitions. Verpex is 62% com, I think, 4.5% .net.org, 2% UK, 1% CA. It's pretty much all like that. So we see .com still as the massive market leader. Unlike other hosting businesses, we aren't churning through every customer every 3 years. Our customers tend to stick with us, and the ones that we've acquired through acquisition are often 10, 15 years old. So maybe that distorts the numbers slightly. If we look at our DNS zones, so our hosted websites, we see similar patterns. So 20% .au, and then within the rest, 45% .com. How we do domains within hosting.com, where we buy lots of these brands, and then we bring them all onto one platform. No surprises, we use Upmind, which is another one of my businesses for running all this stuff. We have, in Upmind land, domain providers, we call them provision configurations. So we connect to those domain providers behind the scenes, and we at the moment have 94 different provision configurations, domain providers that we connect to. And so we can kind of divide the way we approach that domain management into two. You can say, on the one hand, we've got what is the end state if we're doing a new registration or a new transfer of a domain name, what provider are we using, how are we doing that? And then we've got all the acquisitions, where we might be buying a provider with 20,000, 30,000 domain names. So we connect. Upmind doesn't try and pretend to be an ICANN platform. So we're not trying to do all the contact management or the audit information. So we sit on top of HRS, on top of CentralNet Reseller. In Australia, we sit on top of Synergy Wholesale, and they do they manage the ICANN accreditation and those registrations for us. In other instances, we connect to EPP providers like Nominet, like Cocker EPP providers like in Africa. And then with lots of the acquisitions, we tend to just leave things with domain resellers. So we have plenty of eNom accounts, plenty of reseller accounts. And the reason we do that is it's not worth the headache for us moving those domains between providers unless we can BTAPA, because what are we saving? A few cents per domain. It's not our business. We're a hosting business largely. The more interesting stat for me are what people are doing with domain names when they're on our platform. So I looked at this in two ways. So I looked at the 3 million websites we host, and I tried to break down what software was running on them. And for this, I looked at identifiable software. So it can't pick up Laravel, it can't pick up Node.js, it can't pick up custom code. But of identifiable software, we are 84% WordPress and super high WordPress. And on those DNS zones where not necessarily everyone hosts with us, 3% Shopify, 3% Wix. I then looked at the breakdown of servers. So we use cPanel for some of the stuff, and in cPanel we use Softaculous for installs. So these are just two servers that were just added. You can't see very well on the screen. But of 2,400 installs on a server that went live a couple of months ago, 2,100 are WordPress. So we're disproportionately WordPress on everything, and then we're Laravel, educational framework, CMSs, but very heavy WordPress. So that makes us think, what does that mean for us as a hosting business? What are we trying to do? And we're really trying to change how we approach hosting. When I started a hosting business 20 years ago, we sold certain package sizes. We were selling 20 gigabytes of space, or whatever it was then, bandwidth, email accounts, one MySQL database, maybe two if you were lucky. We sold those by showing pictures of servers, some technical things, maybe showing matrix-style numbers, nothing very exciting, but just technical things. 10 years later, we completely reinvented how we sold everything. The packages were the same, we just put a picture of a woman on there. Nothing changed. Now, if you look at hosting and what we're selling, it's completely different. Do our WordPress users care about how much disk space they get or how many MySQL databases they get? They absolutely don't. So we have to reinvent how that works, because those customers, they want performance, they want security, they want speed, and they want ease of use. So we have to rethink how we function as a hosting business in order to target those users and become much more like a product business than a company that just resells things, because hosts 20 years ago and even now were basically marketplaces or supermarkets where people bought certain things that they could then manage. So we all love cPanel, but cPanel is the product, and cPanel and WebPros developed the product that those customers used, and we weren't in charge of it. And cPanel's customers were the hosting companies. They weren't the end users. So one of the headaches we have as a business, even to this day, is our support is excellent, but our support is excellent and complicated because we have to support all of the things that are in the various different providers that we have to offer to our customers. So we're radically rethinking how we do all of that and how we approach it. And what does that mean and how do we do it? I put some pictures up of what we're not. What does that mean? So number one, we are in control of the customer's interaction with us as a business. So we are spending an awful lot of time changing the way that customers interact with us as a hosting business for all the services they buy from us. That starts with managing the interface. So it means that we are in control of the touch points the customer has, the journeys, the upsells, the downsells, the support interactions. We're very lucky to use software like Enhance, like Upmind, that is API first. That means we can be in complete control of the way that the things look on top. So we have a team of developers who's just front-end developers who don't do logic, that just sit on top and build the front end. So we're in total control of this, and we're A/B testing everything that happens in the panel. The second part is we're cutting out all the superfluous junk, all the things that really don't make a difference, or the things that the 5% of customers want that the 85% don't. And so those things customers might think they need, but most of our customers don't need, and it really complicates the experience for our other users. So we hide those things behind advanced gateways or advanced features. And crucially, we're thinking like a product company. So we're thinking, what are the aha moments? What's the onboarding journey? What are the things that we do in order to make our 80% of customers happy, and how can we get those to market really, really quickly? The best company that's SaaSified hosting is one that joined forces with us last week called Rocket.net. I don't know if any of you have heard of Rocket.net, but it's a managed WordPress platform run by a guy called Ben Gabler, who's going to join hosting or has joined hosting.com as our chief product officer. And Rocket is incredible. And it really rethought how hosting works. So when you sign up to Rocket, you don't enter a domain name. You just get given a CNAME, a Cloudflare Enterprise CNAME. If when you want to point your domain there, you just point your domain wherever it is to that Cloudflare Enterprise CNAME. Nothing ever changes. Even if we move servers behind the Rocket.net platform, no one ever needs to change an A record or a CNAME or anything like that. It's just set once and it just works, much more like a SaaS company. The second thing is Rocket only has about 15 to 20 features that every customer gets. It's built on top of cPanel. So Rocket has Cloudflare Enterprise on top of cPanel. It has all those features that customers want, but it cut down those features and it only gives them a certain number. Rocket is the 133rd fastest growing company in America right now because of how simple and awesome its product is. And the third thing is it just knew what it was to its customers. It knew it was a simple WordPress hosting company that was fast, it did great support, and it was easy to use. What does all of this mean for domains at hosting.com? Domains will continue to be something that we don't see as our core business, but as a side business to selling the hosting that we sell. I am yet to be convinced that domains are a way of upselling to hosting. I think there's much more of a correlation of hosting to domains than there is from domains to hosting. We will probably absolutely rethink how DNS works for us. When companies come on board with hosting.com, we want them to have their domain live with us, and whatever they buy from hosting.com underneath, we want it to just work without changing DNS. What does that mean? Does that mean we need a Cloudflare proxy type layer? Does it mean we need to partner with someone? We don't know yet, but that's where we want to go in terms of domain names and hosting.com. Hopefully that's an interesting overview of hosting.com and how we deal with domains. Happy to answer any questions. No? Good. Thanks very much.